What's up guys, Ben here, and I'm bringing you another video today. This is a reaction video to an episode of The Flank that we did last night on Sunday, August 14th. For full context, last night at midnight Pacific time was a deadline for teams to notify players who were on the last year of their CDL deals, so the second year of the deal, which is a team option, whether or not they were going to pick up the option, the player would become a free agent. So over the course of sort of like the early evening of Sunday, players started tweeting out FA. Tom and I and the team decided, okay, we're gonna run up an emergency flank and talk about some of this stuff. CRIMSIX'S and PAULEHX both tweeted some variation of their free agent status. We ran the episode, Crim hopped on, Paul hopped on, DREAL hopped on, and from there, bro, it was just chaos. I recommend watching the video if you haven't already. It's like 3 hours. And I'm sitting here the morning after trying to still process what I listened to last night and tried to like almost, we were like kind of like a therapy session for these guys. And I wanted to make a video and sort of collect some of the thoughts now the morning after that I have about the situation. I think are some key lessons for some of the people watching this video who are aspiring professional Call of Duty players. Maybe you play other types of sports and there are leadership lessons here that you want to apply. Like I have about 5 points that I want to discuss following off from last night. So let's get into it. I think for starters, I'm not going to sit here in this video and break down like everything that happened in that 3-hour episode. I really recommend that you watch because it's just too much stuff. This is more high-level takes that dive in deeper on certain things. So just keep that in mind as we sort of start here. The first thing for me, and this is sort of a macro thing, the entire year, I also think this is like a 3-year problem with New York subliners. To me, this entire situation, the stories we heard last night from all the people involved, is a massive failure of leadership. It's a massive failure of leadership from the players. The veteran players on the team like Clay and CRIMSIX'S managed to create some of these dramatic situations with the team.
The whole trials thing wasn't a trial for Kismet. It was for fucking me or Clay. If I were to tell you guys the rosters right now,
this is post major too, right?
Bro, you understand how hard, and this was the shit I couldn't talk about earlier, Tommy, on the flank.
Yeah.
Right? It's because it's like, I mean, dude, I can't talk about what the fucking org did to me as a human being before, like, while I'm still wearing their uniform. Dude, but that shit killed me. I had to put on their uniform, right? Knowing that they wanted me fucking gone. And the only reason I even stayed on the team was because of Paul and Pac. I mean, dude, I spent the whole season thinking that, like, there was this elaborate fucking scheme to drop me to get Clay. And then once Clay came back, he'd be like, you know, fucking, I want Bobble as the head coach. Fucking Javid, you're gone. I thought that was the whole fucking scheme. I was sitting there thinking it was an elaborate plan, and shit, it may have been, but there was a lot of fucking drama between the 3 coaches. Like, a lot. To the point where this shit carried over to every single player. This shit carried over to Kismet, dude, and he joined last.
So what you're basically saying... you said there's problems between the coaches?
Yeah.
It's a failure of leadership from the coaching staff to control the situation, to conflict manage, to nip things in the butt before they become bigger issues, and to offer solutions to these problems even when they fester and become, you know, one-on-one issues, because it shouldn't come down to me or Tommy or Pat or Chris to, after the fact, hear these guys talk about the conflicts that happened and they weren't resolved and there's still resentment and things. Like, to me, if you are a coaching staff, your responsibility is to make that team perform at its highest level possible. There's a lot of shit you can't control. That's on the players. But there's a lot of stuff here that I think the coaching staff is responsible for that they should have fixed.
I said he couldn't talk.
Well, something like that. You said like too many voice or whatever.
Okay, but you've seen it yourself, Paul. After Major 2, you saw it yourself. The screenshot where he said he wanted to stick to being GM.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Then we had
that was after the.
Hang on, Paul.
That was after you took that to him.
Then we had the call 3 or 4 times with Fish where you guys mentioned individually yourselves you wanted the staff to say more, to do more, and yeah, he didn't.
So you both agree that you felt like Paco got preferential treatment on the team?
Fuck yeah.
Yes,
oh, fucking
okay.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Let's let D-Real speak. D-Real, what is your response then to their answer to that question?
I felt like I was the most harsh on Paco.
Paul, remember when he said this shit to Bobble? This was the most, I'm like sitting there like, Bobble, you gotta do it. You don't got to do anything for us after he said that shit to you. He said, like, I'm head coach now. You're only here because I'm choosing not to fire you.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question. Hold on. I gotta ask this.
Go ahead, Pat. Let Pat have the floor.
I gotta ask this.
Pat, go ahead.
Listen, everyone knows I played from 2007 to 2020. Who the fuck is D-Real?
And when we needed to practice the absolute fucking most, right? After we won the Pro-Am, what did I say, Paul? I said, we got to go even fucking harder now. We just won the one event that didn't fucking matter, right? Now everyone's going to be looking at us going into Major 3, right? Paco's mom came to town, and he was randomly given 10 days of you don't have to come into the office, which was a 2-minute fucking walk.
And
right?
I live 30 minutes away. Thank you very much.
And everyone else was required to come in. Dude, Paul got in a fucking car accident because he had to come in.
Okay.
You were mad at
About
me,
Paul.
so you said everybody
about Paul, you say that I choke like 2 days of stream because I moved, right? We choke 10 days of stream because you went to New Mexico getting drunk and we didn't say anything.
Like, you gotta find your fucking heart and soul, dude, because you're the coldest motherfucker I've teamed with in a while. That's all I'm gonna say.
New team with Pat.
That's good to know.
Have fun on Valorant.
And the third kind of entity that I think had a definite failure of leadership is the executive leadership of the organization. There are some serious claims that were made last night that I think go beyond the coaching staff. Members of the leadership probably should have gotten involved and would have been in a really strong position to mediate and resolve, and they didn't do so, and it's a little bit unclear. I think in general, sort of across a lot of this stuff, like, we need to keep in mind that we're just hearing different sides of the story, so there might be more that might come out from the New York side or from the leadership side that might explain where they were in some of these situations. But from the coaches that were on the show last night, which was with just DREAL, it was clear that in a lot of situations, there was not really anyone from leadership to back up the coaches to help make the right decisions in some of these situations.
And at the end of the day, the management, like, what I really missed about Hector and Hastro was that they're fucking involved, dude. Like, if some shit's going on, they will not, like, number one, they want to know about it.
Yeah, that's
they want to know. What I'm experiencing, what I experienced is like, dude, it's everyone's to fucking blame when shit hits the fan.
Because
you
no
know,
one's taking responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, if you're at the top, if you're running the team, it's like, my advice is like, dude, like, that's under your watch.
My second kind of takeaway is amongst all of this massive dysfunction on this team, I am 100% mind blown that this team made it to 2 finals and 4 events. And to understand what I'm saying is this PAULEHX, Kismet, CRIMSIX'S Hydra team, like the 4 guys they finished the roster with, got first at Pro-Am. They won that event and they got second in Major 4. And I know they didn't play well in Major 3 and Champs was a whole nother thing. But the fact that this team and the stories that we heard and the lack of trust in this team managed to get to 2 finals is actually insane to me. They were a decent team when they were playing well, but they lacked the institutional control and the structure around them to actually get there consistently. That is absolutely absurdly mind-blowing to me. We've seen dysfunctional camps. I've heard of stories of teams that are so down bad, but this is probably on another level.
I was my mind was fucking exploding witnessing all this, dude. It was, dude.
It's a crazy year, bro.
Next question, Ben.
I mean, so let's kind of like let's get to the end of the season here, because so there's a lot of turmoil, but you guys kind of put it together at Major 4. Like, what was like the vibe at that event? Like, were you guys just kind of on pure like it's either do or die?
well, yeah. Well, I was dead or dead either way. Honestly, I was fucking dead either way going into that in my head, but I still didn't give a fuck. I still wanted to win and I tried my best. But
I think the third thing, circling back to something I brought up a few minutes ago, is this camp was so dysfunctional and some of the stories we heard last night were so crazy. It's hard for me to make sense of what is true and what's not. There are a lot of situations where people came on last night, said one thing, someone pressed them and they said another thing. And I tried my best on the show to like kind of probe areas where I felt like people were being untruthful and really nail them on yes or no answers. And people were still trying to weasel their way out of those situations. But this thing is so murky and dense and lacking clarity that like I still don't know on some of these stories that were told last night, like what is actually true and what is not. And I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of some of those incidents. And I'm talking about like some of the things that people said in the moment of practice, an instance where people supposedly chalked practice, things that were said before events that were supposedly racist or non-racist. There were 5 or 6 different stories that were told last night that I don't know, man. I just can't wrap my head around it. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's not. Either way, it's just messy.
Major 3, you want me to say what you say to me? Like,
I mean, you want me to say it? You want me to say it?
No, don't say it. Well, don't say it.
I was like, gonna say it tomorrow.
Right. So that was racist, right?
That was not. That was not.
Yes, that was. You already already talked about that. Like we already talked, and you say to me, yes.
On top of that, all the coaches is what he's saying just aren't agreeing on anything. So it's just like it's just butting heads. Like not only butting heads with like the people on the team, but butting heads with the coaching.
The worst part was I didn't know who I could trust.
Which is a problem. That's where the coach should be coming in, though. You should always be able to trust the coach.
I was gonna add real quick.
I started talking and venting to fucking Valero, right?
Who the fuck is that?
That's the New York camera guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
They're looking around.
You were talking to the camera guy?
Dude, because there's no one I could talk to.
Let me expand on that though.
No
let me
bullshit.
expand on that because
And
I know
honestly,
we're
it built
talking
a
about.
beautiful friendship.
And Putty, do you know what New York wants to do with the roster? Do you know who they're interested in and who they're going for?
Oh, I know. I knew right before the event.
Who is it? Who is it?
it? Dude,
I got told right before the event.
Like before.
Who is
Oh,
it?
bro, before New York.
Paul knew before Major 4. If I'm going into the biggest event of the year, I'm not thinking past that event. If you think past that event, you fucking lose. Period.
Yeah, of course.
Like, and that's the problem, is that they're doing it, fucking getting all sad and shit, motherfucking crying and shit when they lose. I'm sitting there like, you have no fucking right to cry if you're sitting there planning on scheming, dropping your fucking teammates before you even play. You
I
fucking
didn't play the best,
deserve
but
to.
I played my damn heart out for them too.
Pivoting a little, my fourth takeaway, and this is specific to Hydra, is I don't think a lot of people last night came away looking particularly good out of this team. We didn't really hear from Kismet. We didn't hear from JP. And I honestly assume, by the way, that JP was probably in the middle of a lot of this unfairly. And for a guy who's responsible for the team is to really be sort of the data, kind of the logic guy on what to do, offer some insight. It sounds like he was just put in a tricky spot here. But to me, I think the person who I think needs to be the most careful, because I think they have a tremendous amount to lose, is probably Paco, aka Hydra. So as you guys know, he is in the midst of negotiating a new contract with a lot of different teams. He's a free agent. I've been told that it's a pretty hot market for him. And even further, after last night, I dived around, texted a few people, talked to multiple sources around Hydra, multiple sources around the team, and other teams that are also discussing offers with him. And the numbers that are being discussed would put him around one of the highest paid players in the league. Not as much as, say, someone like Scump, but it's up there. And I'm a little concerned by that. Yes, Paco is a very good player, but there's two things that I have tremendous hesitancy about for the amount of money that I'm hearing that he might get paid. Number one is that he's not a amazing English speaker. And I think because of that, he isn't comfortable streaming a lot. He isn't comfortable doing a lot of content and brand deals. And so the return and upside that you're going to get from that deal that you may particularly sign with him, from bringing in new business and actually executing deliverables around that business, I think that's murky territory. I think the second issue for me as well in all of this is that I feel like his attitude right now as a teammate is not what you want to see. And again, I come back to what I said sort of as my third point about like what's true and what's not. But there were conversations last night where Paul and Crim were like giving examples of where Hydra should be a better teammate. And I wouldn't say that Hydra gave like the most mature answer to those, acknowledging his shortcomings.
They said you weren't trying. Are you not trying, Paco? Are you not trying?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not like, I guess like that's what they think.
So in your mind, you thought you were trying.
I mean, like there be some days I won't lie. Like obviously, like I was not.
To me, Hydra comes off like a young player that hasn't yet wrapped his head around the fact that the thing that keeps you in this league is not necessarily your ability to slay. That is super important. You need to get kills. It's a kills-based game, but you need to be the best teammate possible on every single day that you get on with your team. There are days you get on and you have bad things happen around you and you're just in a foul mood, and it happens. We are not robots. We are human beings. But if you are getting paid 6 figures to play video games, and maybe I'm super old school about this, so feel free to roast me in the comments if you want. If you're getting paid that much money, my expectation is you get on and you try every day and you call out. And when team situations happen and we're trying to figure out what's the best situation between option A or B, you're participating in that conversation and we align on what the path is going forward for situation. And to me, nothing I heard yesterday about Hydra makes me think that he's making progress in those areas. And that is dangerous. And I don't know where this is coming from. It seems like maybe there is an element here that New York has sort of coddled some of this behavior. Maybe because they've been afraid of losing Paco because they feel like he's such an important franchise piece, which is fair.
Did you ever have to fucking tell me, Kiz, or Paul to try?
A few times, yeah.
Okay, maybe on Paul on a fucking bad day when Paco wasn't in the
But for
office,
you,
right?
I will admit, not for you. Maybe
not
once for
Kiz
kids.
either. What, you said one time for Kiz?
Maybe once for kids, yeah. When
Okay,
he
One
wasn't
play,
playing.
just so we have everybody.
One time, right? But why is it that I felt like I needed to tell you to tell Paco to try fucking 3 days a week? That's not fucking right, dude.
But you got to be careful about building bad tendencies in young players because these are developmental years for these guys. And the minute that they lock in these tendencies, it is very hard to break down and rebuild. And especially for a young player, like if he's about to sign a massive 3-year deal and it's the same thing over the course of 3 years, bro, he's going to have a hard time finding a team afterwards because players are going to hear these stories and they're not going to want to team with someone that gets on and doesn't try. And look, Paco may feel otherwise. And Paco, if you're watching this video and you want to let let me know your thoughts. I'm happy to have you on. Let's do a video. Let's talk about it. Let's get your thoughts. But my impression, at least from last night, is that he's got a lot of things to work on to be a better teammate. He's a skilled player. He could be an MVP. He can be a top player in the game if he wanted to, and we've seen performances like him like that. But right now, nothing convinces me that he's matured a lot in the last 2 years to be the center point of a team that's going to consistently win event to event in the way we see like an Atlanta FaZe or the Dallas Empire teams from the last couple of years, or the really good Optic Gaming Dynasty teams, or something like a COL. Like, they understood what it took to come in day out and be a good team.
My mentality is my team versus the world. I don't care. Like, I don't care about anyone else. Like, I'm here for everyone. If you got a fucking issue, let me help you. And Paco thought that like that was shit talking back stuff and all this other BS, dude. And in reality, like, bro, I was just trying to help every single person out. It's not only my role as a fucking leader to do that, but dude, like, I just, that was a fucking, it wasn't a slap in the face. It wasn't a punch in the face. That was that had me wondering why the fuck I even tried. I don't think it's a cultural thing. I don't think it's a maturity thing. It's just what it comes down to, what it boils down to is just selfishness. Pat knows better than anyone, right? That, dude, if you put any of these new generation players on that complexity team, they would not fucking survive.
And I think my last point, guys, and there's so much more to say, but I mean, I could rant about this for like 30 minutes, but I don't think it's worth your guys' time. And my biggest concern of all of the points I made, because I highlighted a lot of stuff I think that are problems, but I think this one to me is like needs to be addressed. There is nothing that I have heard from last night and even thinking about it that makes me think that a lot of this situation is going to get resolved. Because if they had basically told Crim, you're out of here, you're not getting renewed, you feel free to find another team, you're not attached anymore. And then PAULEHX basically said that leadership told him that we're going to renew your team option, but go find another team and we'll make it work. And by that, they mean like they'll negotiate a buyout and Paul can go play wherever he wants to. Some of these coaches sticking around, and maybe some of them are going to leave, because we heard last night that it seems like there's definitely going to be some more turnover going on over there. Nothing I heard last night convinces me that this situation will get any better. NYSL has been in the league for 3 years. Year one, their team was massively underperforming. I know internally on that team that there was a lot of tension. Coaching staff was really struggling to deal with a lot of the personalities on that team. They got good at the end of the season because they picked up Mac and they rolled that honeymoon. But again, going close to champs in Modern Warfare, it was still super rocky. Last year, you had the whole situation with Tommy, and that was sort of an out-of-game thing they couldn't control with his hand injury. And then they weren't playing well. They rotated a lot of players in. At one point, Clay benched himself. So there was a lot of drama last year. Again, didn't seem like coaching staff had a good, strong control on the team. Same with the executive leadership. And then this year seems like even more dysfunction in the last 2 years. So it just a straight downward path from year one to year now. I don't see anything that's convincing me that's going to get better next season, because a lot of the bit players are still here. It doesn't seem like there's anyone coming in to do a massive cultural change to this team, because that's what they need. It doesn't seem like they understand why a team like an Atlanta FaZe, who has been consistently good for 3 years in the CDL, and the players on that team have been consistently good for longer on contender teams, who understand the culture that you need to have as a team of trust, of leadership, of understanding, of camaraderie, of vibes. It doesn't seem like anyone on the organization right now knows how to make that happen. And that's a huge problem, because you can still theoretically, like I mentioned with point 2 of my 5 points, like you can manage in a game like Vanguard, I guess, to make it to 2 finals with stuff like this going on. But you're not going to beat Atlanta FaZe if you're going to have internal strife like this on a consistent basis. And by the way, it wasn't just one version of this team last season that had this. From last night, it seemed like from the minute this team got picked up to the end of the season, through all of the roster changes, there was no period of calm where this team was all vibes and enjoying life. It sounds like they went from poor situation to out of game issue with no breaks in between. And they were all just happy, honestly, to kind of put it behind them. And I think we sort of gave them a platform to have a little bit of a therapy session that they didn't really get a chance to have. So that's my thoughts, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. As always, if you haven't watched that flank episode last night, we'll link it in the description of this video. I would definitely take a look. It's a long video, but watch as much as you want. I think it's worth an insight into how dysfunctional teams happen. I think for people that are aspiring professional Call of Duty players, amateur players, if you're trying to get on a team in the CCL, if you're in other esports, if you're someone who's an athlete and trying to play team sports, there's a lot of lessons to be learned here on what you shouldn't do. And I think it's definitely worth the watch, because you can apply that knowledge elsewhere in your life. If you like this video, smash that like button. I'm going to continue putting out content, y'all. We're almost a month into this YouTube channel. We're growing, and I really appreciate all the support. Off season's just kicking up. Roster mini is basically beginning today, and we'll be putting out more videos over the coming days. So I always appreciate you subscribing to this channel. We'll be putting out more content, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much.